Hey, this is Sasha. So I have a question for you. Would you live in your car for 5 years if that means you could retire soon after? Think about this one for a minute. All right, so there's a lot of people that are interested in the FIRE movement, want to retire really early. Their whole goal really is to retire, retire, retire. It's almost to the point where they don't really want to enjoy their current life. They want to go ahead and allocate this block of time to making sure they retire very, very well. Meaning they don't really have to worry about money, they don't have to really go to work. So the question is how focused are you on retirement? If it's something that's a huge, huge goal, then in this case, I wonder, and I ask you the question, would you be willing to live in your car, especially as a person who's making decent income and decent earnings, would you be willing to live in your car over the next 5 years if you could retire very soon after that? So think about that for a moment. If you're living in your car, and here's a little post from someone from Reddit saying, hey, I live in my car, and here's kind of my expenses, about $2,700. And I know some people's expenses might be a little bit more, a little bit less, but really when you think about this concept where you're not spending money on a rent and other expenses, just the sheer fact of the lifestyle that you're going to be dealing with, it lowers your total expenses. You don't have as much electric, you don't have, the mortgage, or you don't have the insurance that you have to pay for house insurance. So there's a lot of things that you're going to be cutting back on just by the sheer fact of the lifestyle, and then all of a sudden, because of that lifestyle, everything else will be kind of reduced. All right, so let's think about this for a minute. Let's say you are a high income earner, okay, and you are making about $150,000 per year. That's quite a bit. You're in the upper class. You're not making small change, so you're making a decent income right there. So it allows you to pocket things. I know in certain places like New York, this is kind of the middle of the road. If you get a decent job, maybe you could be making $250,000 a year or $300,000 a year. So that starts to really ramp things up. But let's say you're making about $150,000 a year after expenses and some other things. Let's say you're down to about $125,000 for the year. Okay, so let's multiply this times your 5 years. What are you going to have? You're going to have $625,000 in your savings. So this is serious money that you could go ahead and now pocket and go ahead and invest in other things, making money from your money already. So this is kind of a huge win and step up when you start to look at money and income at this level. Now, yes, you'd have to live in your car. So for 5 years, you don't really have a life. It's kind of like, hey, well, what kind of lifestyle? If, of course, you think, hey, I need to go ahead and have a mortgage or an apartment, I need to go ahead and live someplace nice, fancy, that kind of stuff, then yeah, your lifestyle is not very good. So you have to kind of balance these things when you're really looking at, okay, do I want to go ahead and retire? How bad do I want that? Versus also living your life. So there's this trade-off that has to happen. Now, some people are really, 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 really into retirement. They just hone in and they just focus into the future. They just want to live in the future. I need more money. I want more money. I want to retire early. That's kind of a huge thing for them. And they stack a lot of bricks and a lot of rocks and weight into this level, okay? Other people, they're like, hey, I want to live my life and live my life to the fullest. I'm not really worried about, money. And they stack a ton of bricks and weight here in this segment. And the question is for you, where do you strike that balance? So it's not, my point here is not to say, hey, if you really want to retire fast and early, just live in your car and save a bunch of money. My point in talking about this discussion is to share with you how bad do you really want to either retire early or versus living a high life, because there's going to be this balance that you have. And if you think about it like a spectrum, so here we have our spectrum, and this will be our, let's say this is our high life, and this will be our retirement. So are you going to be living more like, hey, are you way at the top? You want to live a high life, or are you focused a little more on retirement, or are you kind of somewhere in the middle? So all of this is a little bit more of a balance that you have to strike. And at some points, maybe, hey, I want to go ahead and live a high life for a little bit. but then also at some points you're focusing in on retirement. So creating that cycle and balance may work to your advantage, because then you have kind of a good lifestyle in working on your retirement, but also living your life. But for other people, if you're, maybe in a certain situation where you can go ahead and just pump out and make a bunch of money, maybe you're willing to do a couple of years worth of sacrificing and you want to pump in money into your retirement and you got a really good paying job, that could be a huge way is to, boom, flip your lifestyle. If you can flip your lifestyle, live a little off the grid, save and pocket a lot of money, and then go ahead and make more money from your investments, that could be an approach you want to look at. Because what happens is normally what people do is, let's say they go ahead and make money, and they might be making, let's say, $50,000 a year. Well, now their lifestyle is a $30,000 lifestyle. Maybe they get a pay raise, they start making an $80,000 a year income, and then their lifestyle becomes a $70,000 a year. And you can see how this cycle continues. So $100,000 a year income could, your lifestyle might be $90,000. And for some people, let's say you're making $150,000 a year, their lifestyle actually a $200,000 lifestyle. And this is where you get into credit card debt, and really this is where the huge issue and problem lies, is that when you get into spending much more than what you're making. Whereas here I'm talking about if you're living in your car, or let's just say you're sacrificing yourself in a big way, you're transforming your lifestyle in a different way to where, hey, you're barely, surviving or living off the grid, but you're pocketing a ton of money. Now you can really ramp up your retirement. So there's just trade-offs. It's just a matter of balancing those things out. I'm not saying one way is better than the other, but what you need to do is figure out where's your sweet spot. How bad do you want the retirement part? How bad do you want the living your life to the fullest part? And finding that sort of balance and structuring that balance is really what you're looking for. Now, for some people that maybe, let's say you have 3 or 4 kids, maybe you don't want to live in your car. Maybe that's not the scenario you want for your children. Or maybe some people, they want to go ahead and live in an RV or motorhome. I've seen those kinds of people and heard those stories. And their lifestyle seems to be good and happy and so on. So it just depends on your personal situation where you want to be. My point is how bad do you want it? How bad do you want the retirement part, or living life to the fullest where you're maybe going out every night, or blowing a bunch of money on things that maybe you feel like buying and experiences you want to go and travel and do those kinds of things all over the place, taking 2 years off. So everybody's at a different point, but figure out what your balance is and then structure your life accordingly. All right, so don't forget to check out some of the great freebies we have on our website here at MyLittleNestEgg.com. Just go to the freebies section. There's also a lot of getting started pages and many other great resources here on our website. So thank you so much for joining me. Get those freebies by clicking the link over here, or you could subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking this link right down here. Thank you so much for joining me once again. And remember to do what you love, contribute to other people, but most importantly, live life to the fullest. It's not just about money. So thanks again, and I will see you next time.